Welcome to RED35 and look who's back! Charlie! And today we're looking at a very special and rare lens by Olympus, the Zuiko 35-100 f2.
It's also absolutely massive.
It is massive. Well, Olympus is actually renowned for small lenses, so this is not one of them.
It's bigger than my head.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.
Charlie, I thought we had summer.
Yeah, me too. It was well, we did. It was 3 days. That's longer than normal.
Yeah, no, and you were with your bikini last week, and this week we are fully dressed.
Yes, and we'll have like a day in June, and then we'll have like a long weekend in September, and that's it. That's what we'll have.
Typical British weather we have here. And anyway, go back to the lens. This is a lens review, so we should talk about the lens. And this is one big heavy beast that I'm looking at the moment.
It's absolutely massive.
You know, as big as Charlie's face. And in fact, you know, I want to talk about this lens, and I actually know that a lot of you guys actually wanted me to talk about this lens, and I do happen to own it, which is actually amazing, and it's a rare lens.
Yeah, so you're living the dream.
I'm definitely living the dream, and I'll tell you why this is actually quite rare, and because of the price. Let's talk about the price first. This lens was released in 2003, so some years ago, and back in those days, most professional equivalent zoom lenses, they were selling for around about £1,000 to £1,200.
Right.
And guess how much this one was selling?
4.5.
Well, okay, this is not a Leica zoom lens.
Okay,
yeah. Wasn't bad. You know, it was actually about $2,500.
Okay.
But you know, this 2003, it was $2,500.
I don't buy lenses, so I don't know.
Okay, all right, okay. I forgive you. That's true. But you know, you can imagine why this is quite rare, because it was quite expensive. You know, like,
yeah, especially for like, what's that, like 14 years ago?
Yeah.
15 years ago, so it's a long time.
It's a long time, and you know, unless you are really professional that making money from a lens, you know, unlikely you are going to spend $2,500 on something that you don't make money back.
Yeah.
You know, unless you are ultra rich, of course. But you know, and that's why there's not many people actually bought this lens at the time, and also Olympus wasn't really in the professional market at the time, you know, and so most people who used Olympus DSLRs at the time are amateurs, or you know, just people who are into Olympus as a brand, you know, or they used film cameras before they would continue using the digital camera, so they were looking at this lens and just, oh gosh, the price was so, you know, out of reach.
Yeah.
So they bought the lesser model, which is a 2.8 to f4, which is slightly smaller lens, slightly lighter lens, and slightly cheaper lens. So no one actually really bought this, and so like even on the used market these days, you really have to find hard, you know, to actually see it.
Yeah.
And so even in the second-hand market, this thing still command on quite a premium, simply because it's quite rare.
Yeah.
But having said that though, this lens was marketed and built, designed for professional. Also, this lens was built for the older 4/3 system, not the current micro 4/3.
Right.
So a lot of people may not understand what the difference between the 4/3 and the micro 4/3. I can tell you now, the only similarity between the two platforms was the sensor size.
Right.
You know, the sensor size means that this little thing in the middle.
Yep.
The older system, basically, they were just DSLRs. We had the mirror box inside, so works like a traditional camera. And mirrorless, basically they remove the mirrors, that's why they call mirrorless cameras. So there's no mirror, and when you open the lens up, it goes straight to the sensor.
Okay.
So this is the only difference between the two. So Olympus kind of abandoned the system, you know, 2008, 2009. I cannot remember exactly when they actually abandoned the system.
Yep.
So after that, you know, these lenses became kind of like a legacy lens, and became like a what do I call it? Like something you can't touch. You know, like when you see, you know about it, and like a myth. No, not. Hey. Holy Grail, Holy Grail. Yeah, it's just something you can't get hold of. And although they were still selling on the leftover stock, or dead stock is what they call it, in websites, companies, but they were getting rarer and rarer, and just people just can't get hold of it.
They stopped like making them because they weren't selling very well, so they probably didn't make as many as other lenses.
And as soon as they moved over to Micro Four Thirds, which is the current system now, and this just kind of disappeared in the whole scene. But having said that, people had heard about this lens, and they were also very curious about this. So people wanted me to have a look at this. So that's what we're doing today, and see what we can do with these things.
I mean, Jimmy's getting a good workout, so, you know.
I use this as a proper dumbbell at home, you know. This thing's really heavy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have to hold it with 2 hands all the time like this.
Like a baby.
Like a baby. Well, actually, I have to treat it like a baby because it's so freaking expensive.
And that.
And heavy.
Look at you rock it. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna... It's still like...
Well, it's much smaller. The Micro Four Thirds cousin. Okay, let's look at the build quality of this thing. And you might have familiar with this lens because we've done a review of this. If you haven't seen it, the link is up here. This is the very famous and very popular 40-150 f2.8 Pro lens. Charlie's very fascinated by the hood.
It's just... Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you, this hood is actually definitely one of the, best design I've ever seen. It's really cool. It's collapsible, so it makes the lens so much smaller. Talking about small, obviously his bigger cousin, literally bigger cousin is really a lot bigger. But build quality, this is something I have to say about Olympus, is that you keep saying the same reaction.
Sorry.
And then I think all the professional Olympus lenses or equipment in general are very, very well put together. They are all metal built, all weather sealed, so you can shoot in the rain, there's no problem. You can hit people without any damages.
Back to your self-defense.
Back to myself. And I'm saying that she's becoming more dangerous than I am. She just told me that. So I wouldn't give it to her. She's gonna kill me with this. That's right, you can hold it. Right, I can tell you that this thing, if I say is built like a tank, it's an understatement. I think it's built more like a nuclear bomb-proof bunker.
Do you know what they... Do you have one?
I
know where I'm going if there's a nuclear war. To Jimmy's house.
I wish my one's built like that so no one can attack me. But no, but it's really, really solid, and you can tell by the weight. Earlier we told it's really heavy. This thing is 1.6 kilogram of metal. That this thing is probably about 800 gram. Don't quote me on that. I forgot the exact same spec of these things, but it's a lot lighter compared to this.
Yeah.
But even without a hood, this hood is massive, by the way. And even without a hood, you look at the size of this, it's still a lot bigger. And
what about when you do that?
And now it's more like it. But having this is the thing about the build quality of these things, and I do genuinely really impressed. I've used a lot of different pro equipments in the past. I've used Canon cameras, I used Leicas, and this thing, it really is a nuclear bunker. This is a new term now. I'm not even going to say it's built like a tank anymore. This is a bunker.
Right.
Not a normal bunker.
It's not going to do very well if there's a nuclear war, though.
No.
Protecting you.
But the thing is, it's so heavy. I don't think I can throw it far.
Right.
So I can't kill people with this.
But you could, let's not get into that. We could just be here forever talking about self-defense.
Okay, but Okay, going back to the quality of this, you know, like I'm going to talk to image quality in a minute, but of course this was built for or designed for the 4/3 system which I mentioned before, which is for the DSLR line. Right. If you want to use it on mirrorless cameras or the Micro Four Thirds, either Panasonic or Olympus bodies, you need to have an adapter, which I have here. You see a little thing here?
Oh, okay,
sure, yeah. That little pancake thing is an adapter, so I can take it out for you guys to see. Yep. So you can hold this.
So heavy.
So this, you need these little things because you can see these little contacts here is to communicate with the lens. So like basically it's like a translator in a way for this to that, and also at the distance so you can make sure that the light goes into the right spot on the sensor, to put it non-technically.
Cool.
So yeah, you do need that to use on any other Micro Four Thirds system, but it is best to use on a EM1 Mark II body, simply because this was designed for the DSLR technology, so it's best to use a camera body with face detection AF, which EM1 is the only camera that has face detection, either Mark 1 or Mark II, which I have the Mark II here. So they both will support really nicely with this lens. It's not going to be as fast as this. So in terms of speed, this would be a lot faster. Yeah. Compared, you know, if you want to focus something really quickly, that will still win. Not that this is slow, just because it's not designed for this. Yes. You know, you need a little translator there. So there's a little bit of a delay there. But apart from that, you know, like what we do normally shooting portraits and things, you know, speed, it doesn't really come into it unless you're shooting action. Yeah. So this is fine. So for wedding job, I think this is still performed brilliantly. I mean, which I use it for every wedding that I use. Yeah, I'm going to talk about image quality next, so you'll be quite interested in finding out why this is so special. Special. Okay.
You have a maximum of 2 minutes to talk about image quality. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Go.
Okay, image quality of this 35 to 100 f2 is brilliant, and in fact, actually, it's really good. Yeah. Yeah, because
I saw some on the back of the camera there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, just like any Olympus cameras, pro lenses, they are fantastically designed, you know, optically. You know, these things, when I zoom in, when I do pixel peeping, blowing out 100% on screen, this thing is really tack sharp. But being an older lens, it's slightly different in terms of color tones to the more modern lenses. Less contrast, but in terms of bokeh quality, sharpness, the CA corrections, you know, when I say CA, it's these chromatic aberration.
Chromatic aberration? Is that what you tried to say?
Yes, I am.
Wow. I've never heard those words before in my life.
So yes, so that is well corrected in the lens design. So there is actually none on the system. So no purple fringing or anything like that, even when shooting in high contrast situations. But one thing I have to say about this lens though, and it's very prone to flare. Right. Well, I personally like flare. I mean, I like to shoot against the sun, and I like to get that flary kind of thing going on in the image, you know.
It's just magical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's magical. Adds a little bit of romance into the picture, because I'm a wedding photographer, so I like that sort of feel. But to some photographer, flare could be a problem. So hence this gigantic hood.
Yeah, like, I guess if you were trying to do an actor's headshot, for example,
yes,
like, you flare, that's not what you want, is it? So
no, but I guess, you know, as an example, I think that, you know, that will probably be the only gripe about this particular lens. But other than that, you know, I really genuinely love the image quality from this. Perfect. Bokeh, you've seen the bokeh? Yep. The blurry thing?
The blurry light thing.
It's definitely one of the creamiest in the Olympus lineup. Yep. Even though this is an older lens, but I think it's really, really good. It's just so soft, like pillow. Exactly 2 minutes. Yay! I got it done. So yes, it's good.
So you said this, you mentioned this lens was obviously quite old. Would you recommend this lens for like modern photographers, or?
The answer is depends.
Okay.
You know, I personally, depending if you are wedding photographer, portrait photographer, that doesn't require speed. I think yes, is definitely yes. If you can find one, like I said, it's quite a rare thing, and still quite expensive. But yeah, I mean, image quality wise, I mean, I would wholly recommend this lens. It's just, I think to me, it's sublime. You know, I've seen so many nice lenses in my career.
Yeah, it's
and
like stood the test of time.
Absolutely. You know, despite being in 2003. You know, lens, but this is, it can compete with any of the modern day lenses. It's without any problem. It's really sharp, very detailed, and I just think it's just great. But if you are someone who do a lot of sports tractions, you know, or tracking subjects and things like that, I think you're better off with the newer lenses. You know, with the like the 40 to 150 that that you were playing around with earlier.
You need speed, don't you? So
yes, and it's more modern, so it doesn't need the translator that I mentioned before. You know, so it's more compact as well, more smaller, so it's better for the system. I think in general, it just really depends on what you are looking for as a photographer. And for me, if I like to shoot pretty things, you know, and this thing's actually really, it does the job really well. And I think they like nice soft bokeh. The really nice blurry thing is actually really soft, which is actually very good. So in terms of handling, I think depending on whether you are strong enough to hold this lens for a longer period, to be honest, because it's at 1.6 kilo lens only is quite a heavy beast. It's not something that you can, you know, comfortably hold it for the whole day, unless you plonk it on a tripod. You know, so it can be quite problematic for smaller photographer or female photographer, for instance.
Just new photographers, I guess, in general, because you're not used to
the weight.
If you're using cameras quite often, then you might be used to a bit more weight. Whereas if you're quite new to it, it might be a bit of a shock to the
correct
to the system.
That is also true. That's also very true. But it is quite heavy. So, and also if you mount it to a modern camera these days, like even like EM1 Mark II is the top of the range for Olympus at the moment. It's supposed to be their biggest camera, but even their biggest camera, it looks small compared to the lens. So when you hold it, it really is front heavy. So like you do have to really hold it with both hands, you know, to stabilize it. Even though we've got stabilization, it's going to be quite difficult to hold it into horizon. So probably that will be my only complaint if you want to use this lens on more modern bodies. But apart from that, I do genuinely love this lens, and that's why I still keep it in my professional bag for shooting weddings, portraits, because it just has this fantastic quality about it. Definitely. So thumbs up. Thumbs up, definitely a thumbs up, double thumbs up. And if you saw the images already, you know how beautiful Charlie is, as usual. And with combined with this lens, it just, you know, this is made for heaven. You know, just really, really nice. And if you haven't checked out our previous video of Charlie's detail, I'm going to put the social link down there so you can check her out. And if you haven't subscribed also, shame on you. Click that subscribe button.
Do it now.
Yeah, now, right now.
Do it, do it, do it, do it.
Clap, clap.
Do you want me to?
Professional Olympus lenses or equipment in general are very, very well put together. You know, they are all metal built, all weather sealed, including this. For a lot of female photographer, if they like to use this lens, it could be a little bit. Okay, good.
Oh. You ready?
I'm relaxed. Gosh.
Right.